Get ready to get in the game. Stretch, strengthen, live, and thrive. You can be a winning athlete in the game of life. It's the Peel Appeal with author and corrective exercise specialist Matt Peel.
Hey, this is Matt Peel with the Peel Appeal podcast. Welcome. Where are you at today listening? Well, what country are you in? What state are you in? That's the best part about the internet here and listening and podcasts is we talk to people from literally all over the world. Today, I'm psyched because I'm bringing back a guest. Had a great conversation with me last time talking about insulin response and diabetes and what Big Pharma does not want you to know because it's facts, it's truth, it's science. And that's what we're about on the Peel Appeal podcast. So today, we're going to talk with the Unscripted Pharmacist, Rootsaert, and we're going to talk a little bit about metrics because you got to know what you have to fix it. If not, you're just shooting in the dark, right? So you're drowning in diets and apps and advice. And is it true? Is it not true? What's going on with my metabolism? Do I even have a problem? Do I not have a problem? If I look on the internet, I always have a problem with something, right? Because that's what the internet is for, to tell us all the problems that we don't really have. Well, without metrics and the metric edge in data, you got to drive. It's like driving with duct tape on your dashboard. You can't see. You're just figuring out how am I going fast enough? If I'm not going fast enough, do I even have turn signals? What am I doing? So today, we're going to rip that duct tape off and we're going to fix it. So we don't want to guess. We want to measure what we manage. Because your body may not be broken, right? You're just out of whack a little bit, but doesn't mean that it's broken. So Kyle, welcome back, man.
Hey, thank you, Matt. This is cool.
I love it. So Kyle,
I love your car analogy. That's cool.
You know what?
Hold on.
I think a lot of people can jive with that. And we talked about we're all over the world, right? So Kyle is right now in Sacramento, California. He graduated from pharmacy school here in the New Orleans area. So there's that little connection. He knows where I'm at in Mandeville. Well, we can connect again like we did a few months ago. And so I love it. I love it. So let's talk first of all about energy debt, right? The reason why someone overeats.
So much to I think that what we need to do is a really important thing about that. What we're not looking at is hormones. We're not measuring the labs that are available to us, and instead, we rigged this entire system to make you the failure because they're going to tell you calories.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go, okay, well, you're going to just beat this up. Try to do the mileage. You're going to weigh everything. You're going to be under a rock.
Right.
You're trying to do math.
Math is hard.
I don't like it. Like, we should know what to eat. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you can calculate all this for me. But why? Why are we so dependent upon this philosophy that we've been using for the last 50 years? And look where it's gotten. You feel like a failure because you can't control your calories. You can control what's going in. But the food's been hijacked. And that craving, the desire for more is part of your wiring system. That is dopamine saying, if you have an opportunity for high caloric dense foods that are sweet, our survival may be dependent. Maybe at one time we did need that fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just take this back to the beginning. The fruit's only available for 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah, if it's going to be fruit, right.
Right. Okay, so when you don't eat other than those 2 weeks out of the year, what are you eating? You're eating technology that's so foreign to the human body.
Yeah.
Sugar. Sugar is like, it's Roundup. Manufactured. It's refined. Just like cocaine, the leaves are nothing. You can chomp on the leaves all day long. It's the refinement that makes it a drug. So our brain is being hijacked. We are getting locked into a energy debt because of that sugar in our diet, and we don't see it. The problem, if you look at just the effect of insulin on this calorie, this metabolism, insulin is going to slow your metabolic rate. It's going to slow down that calorie calculation for you and mess everything, because insulin is going to slow it down by about 17 to 20% of your metabolic rate would be affected by insulin. So if you look at somebody who doesn't have any insulin, they have super high metabolic rate and they can't build any muscle or connective tissue. They're scrawny as hell. These are type 1s, and they don't live very long before the invention and before the insulin in 1923. What you don't see is what happens to that same person when we inject them with insulin. They get big. They're able to grow. They're able to put on fat mass. They're able to make connective tissue muscle. And for your list, and for everybody that wants to live a long life, muscle growth is kind of everything. A lot of what you do is about muscle growth.
Right. Yes.
Muscle is the thing to put the toxic carbs in. You're growing that reservoir. You're growing the pool. You're making it bigger. And on top of it, you're making the insulin work better. Insulin must be in this tight range, and it's 2 to 5. But trying to get a doctor to measure insulin is nearly impossible.
So let's expand on that part, and because the next thing you wanted to say a little bit about was like the lie of normal, because you're right. There's what we think the doctors are going to tell us, and kind of just your GP on things, who they have some knowledge, and I'll just share a little story about, it's not specific on this, about though how much are they really pay attention. So I went and got my physical for my 50th birthday in late May in June, right? And they did the basic blood work, and the message came back through the messenger app as everything looks good, no change in your medications. I'm not on medications. I have 0 medications. Right. So there's no change to them. Well, wow. What a damn update is that? Because I'm not taking any. So are you really paying attention to me, or am I just, just a number? So when you tie that into the lie of normal, right? So like your labs looks fine, no change in your meds. Well, what does all this shit really mean then? Just green. Is green good? What side of the number is it good, or is it not good? So talk to me about how kind of tracking can make that a little bit better.
Yeah, this is quite the broad statement here, but if you have a physician that when you ask for fasting insulin level and he says, no, you're not diabetic, you have the wrong doctor. And so, unfortunately, I don't mean to throw you to the wolves, but you are going to be in a world of hurt trying to find a doctor, probably within 100 miles of where you live, of a doctor that understands insulin and metabolism. You guys, this is not nobody's fault. The doctor is literally just like me. You're so into what you're doing that you have blinders on and you can't see truth, and you probably don't want to see truth because your whole career is based on it. I felt too, and it took a while to get through that frustration, and your doctor has to do it as well, but he has to bury his nose in metabolism and nutrition, which they don't get. It's not your fault. You have more information than your doctor on how to get healthy. First question, is your doctor? If your doctor's not healthy, you're probably with the wrong doctor, because they would really practice what they preach. Working out with a personal trainer that 50 pounds overweight. That doesn't make sense. I'm not trying to insult anyone. Absolutely not. But your knowledge base and your conviction of what you're doing and what you stand for should be evident through your physical appearance.
Right. It's like the doctor, your heart doctor, who on his break, he's standing outside the back deck with his nurses smoking cigarettes, and then comes back in and says, "Hey, you need to lose some weight, and you may want to cut back on that smoking and some of that fat." Wow, doc, how is that working for you and your blood pressure medication?
I'm surprised that you didn't get dinged some cholesterol.
Yeah.
If you were to tell him that you're doing the carnivore ketogenic diet, he'd flip out and you'd say, "Oh, you sustain that and you're a bad cholesterol." No. That is like a memorized speech for the doctor, right? They aren't looking at what actually kills you. Okay, so we need to look at what are the things that kill you, and we're not even measuring these. We might be measuring them. However, there is really no advice that works. Like, for example, the metabolic syndrome, which is everybody, 93% of the population has some aspect of these 5 problems. One of them is high blood pressure. Another one is high blood sugar. The other one is expanded waistline. Didn't say obesity or I didn't say BMI. Think about where is that found? It's in the front of you. It's dangerous. That's really important, right? 40 inches per minute. You got it here. It's trouble. And then it's high triglycerides and low HDL. That's on your lipid panel that's covered. Okay, so this is kind of a, hey doc, I realize you don't know anything about insulin resistance and you won't measure my fasting insulin level, but I have an alternative that I kind of look at that gives me an idea how much insulin resistance I have without actually measuring. But these 5 symptoms, if you have 3 of them, you have metabolic syndrome. That right there is 70% of our population. Some 93% of our population has one of these problems. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a major problem. And if you were to Google right now, and you typed in metabolic syndrome, dying to hear what you would get. You're probably going to blame it on being overweight and eating too much calories. This narrative, this misinformation campaign is so deep. It's in every healthcare profession as well. They don't understand that. I will be talking to a brick wall if I had a physician. What is metabolic syndrome? And he'll just say, "Oh, it's insulin resistant." And you'll go, "Well, if it was an insulin resistance problem like hyperthyroidism, because don't you think you draw thyroid level? If you're hyper or hypo, right? You have thyroid resistance. If you have insulin resistance, you should check insulin. Is it high or is it low? It's high. This is type 2 diabetes with a high insulin level.
Yeah.
This is the secret. Your listeners know more, like I did last time. You guys know more now than your doctor does. And think about it, like, so you would be scratching your head. Okay, I also said it's all about this metabolic syndrome, which really is hyperinsulinemia syndrome, which is really a high. Doctor doesn't want to measure. The American Diabetes Association. I want to measure. Go ahead and measure. You can go online and measure. But if I want to know if I'm in any sort of danger, like right now, or some concern, get that lipid panel. When you got your cholesterol standard test, when you fasted for 12 hours, pull that out. See what that ratio is. And as a general rule of thumb, if that ratio, take the top number, triglyceride, and divide it by the HDL, and you get a number greater than 2, you got work to do. You have some level of insulin resistance.
Yeah.
That is a very safe, down and dirty, easy way to say, without drawing an insulin level, that you have this problem.
Say that again. Say that one more time. Do that math one more time for us.
Okay, so you got metabolic syndrome. 93% of the population has an aspect of this, and I named those 5 symptoms. They're overweight, blood sugar, and then these 2 metrics that are really important. And you didn't notice that I didn't think cholesterol, Leo.
Nope.
It's not part of the equation. Okay. All right. Your listeners they've got metabolic syndrome, syndrome. It's hyperinsulinemia syndrome. So it's a high insulin syndrome. No one's measuring. The normal level, if you should be fasting insulin, optimal is 2 to 5. Everybody's north of 8. Then there's
what's that ratio? What are the two numbers?
the ratio is of that triglyceride to HDL ratio is you take the high number, the triglyceride, and divide it by the low number, that HDL, which is that good cholesterol. Take the top one, you divide it by the bottom one, and you get a number greater than 2. African American is even lower, like 1.5. So this number needs to be, that triglyceride number should be very small. And I'll tell you, you talk about red, yellow, green, the best optimal green type number with triglyceride is going to be like the benchmarks are like super high, like 200 when your red flag goes off. But you should be thinking this should be much more should be 80, and that HDL should be very close to your triglyceride number. Good cholesterol. Most people listening will have a very low HDL, especially men. That HDL, that good cholesterol, is very low, and that number needs to come up. You know how you get these numbers to get in alignment?
How's that?
Reduce your carbs.
Reduce carbs.
Reduce your carbohydrate intake. It's
Simple. Simple.
Easy peasy.
Simple.
Yeah.
Easy said, right? Easy said.
Easy said than done, but what? Hey, I want to
Yeah.
easy it is. Okay, wait. I will introduce you to the most important tool to get your triglycerides down and your HDL. It has to do with reducing carbohydrates, and it has to do with increasing your fat intake. You have to eat a lot of fat and a lot less carbs. What happens when you eat carbohydrates is you lock yourself into carb burning. So you're just burning carbs, you're not burning fat. So what lays around? All the extra fat. And triglyceride is your fat. Triglyceride is fat in your bloodstream. And that's not your fuel if you're eating carbs instead. So make a choice. Eat a lot of carbs and be stuck in carb burning mode and let the fat accumulate in your bloodstream and in your fat cells and everywhere else it can or cannot go. Well, it'll go, right? Or if you reduce the carbohydrate and increase the fat. I know it sounds so ironic, but it has everything to do with that hormone insulin that you talk about. How do I get my insulin level down? You reduce the carbohydrates in your diet. You do the ketogenic diet. But we have to pause here and really clarify this. Because the ketogenic diet means you're at least measuring ketones at a finger stick every morning, and that number is above 0.5. You tell me that you're doing keto and you're just counting numbers, that doesn't mean that you're in ketosis. The ketogenic diet means that you're in a state of nutritional ketosis. That means that you're measuring ketones. And those ketone levels in the morning needs to be above 0. So I think there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of, it's another 4-letter diet word, and I feel like we should clean this up a little bit. But to get that insulin level down is going to be to increase the ketone. And the only way that we can feed your little balls of fat start spewing out of your body. And think about this. These ketones have caloric significance. They're not benign little things. They're massive. This is the wonder magic molecule. Right? The next 100 years is trying to understand what are these little 4-carbon things doing. They're fascinating, you guys. The brain can run on them instead of sugar. When you switch the brain over and run on ketones, it's way better. You won't have to worry about Alzheimer's disease. But to manage this is to measure the ketones. And if you can measure your glucose level continuously, using one of those CGMs that people put on the back of their arm, when you see that, you can lower the insulin. And you can start burning that fat. That fat will not burn if insulin's high. So that correlation is very, very important. I know this is deep, but now listen. If insulin's high for whatever reason, and there's many reasons why insulin levels can be high. It could be your diet, it could be your sleep, it could be your stress, it could be other factors that would raise your glucose as well as it would raise insulin. Insulin equals fat.
This is great. So let's
A lot to unpack.
let's unpack and let's pause it and let's stop it right there for this episode, right? Because we'll come back and we can talk about more and get to the deep dive. But I think it's very important for people when we talk about measures. That's what we introduced at the beginning of the show, right? Is measuring metrics. So the metric for someone to measure need to measure their glucose, right? And they need to measure their ketones, right? On a this
Right, the glucose should be measured continuously. That's
Glucose
really important. You
continue.
gotta get that patch. You got to.
Okay.
It is worth the money just to get the patch. You got to see what it does. And when you see your response to the food and your lifestyle, using what is available, the CG. I also use an Oura ring. This tells me a lot about stress.
Right.
And kind of like, why is my blood sugar elevated if I haven't eaten much food? Well, your cortisol level is elevated and you're stressed, right? That's going to affect you. So
Right.
measuring your glucose is and how your response is to food and lifestyle is how you're going to manage, right, your life. You have to know what you're doing.
Perfect. I love it. And that's why we talk to people. I talk to people like you, right? Because it's not the canned response. It's not the pharma response. It's not, this is a paid message to consume more dairy by the dairy board who is funding the study. Right. And I'm not, if you want dairy, great. If you don't want dairy, fine. But
I
you
like
get
dairy.
it, right? Me too. But you get the point. Right? This is not a paid advertisement by Hostess cupcakes or anything like that. So I love it. It flips the whole narrative of everyone, how to get control of your glucose, how to get control of your life, right? And then, yes, obviously working activity and things like that. But Kyle, so as we wrap this up, because this is, again, amazing stuff. My mind's blown. I'm sitting here. That's why I'm not talking a lot, because I'm learning everything from you. But how can someone get in touch with you? I know you have some new things coming down the pipe. Where would you like them to go? I know you have the unscriptedpharmacist.com. What else? Where else can they find you? What else do you want me to do?
Go to my website and get on my email list. To have a integrated wearable biosensor system because what you're going to find, especially like when you start looking at, I talked about lifestyle as well as measuring glucose. These are, it's going to be very difficult to integrate. And I think it's important that we do, because I really want you to see how sleep and lifestyle affects your glucose. That's the purpose of my integration, is so that you can put it all together and learn, what does your data really tell you? What are all these signals? What is the check engine light going off that you're not getting? So that's the whole point of my future endeavors. So go to my website and get on my mailing.
I love it. So that's the unscriptedpharmacist.com. Get in touch with Kyle. He's Unscripted Pharmacist, I know, on Instagram, also on Facebook. You can connect with him. Same way on LinkedIn. I'm following him on all these different social medias and love his information. Can't get enough of it. So thank you, Kyle, for being on the show. And we'll do it again very soon. Awesome. So this is Matt Peel with the Peel Podcast. Share, like, subscribe, wherever you're getting your podcasts. And love to hear from you. So from the Peel Podcast, I will see you next time.
Are you ready to get in the game? Get personal help, sign up for our newsletter, and pick up your copy of Athlete in the Game of Life, the book, all at mattpeel.com. Thanks for listening.